Treasury has no control over the...
I'm just asking about what statutory authority you rely on.
Again, we are operating under an agreement between state and energy that we are not involved.
No, but the executive order said that the Treasury Secretary is holding those assets in custody. Under what authority are you acting?
I will get back to you with the exact authority.
Secretary Rubio said that we are not at war with Venezuela. Unless you disagree with Secretary Rubio.
IEPA.
That's not in IEPA. Thank you for being here today, Mr. Bessent. Appreciate your patience with us. Since the U.S. captured President Maduro, the Trump administration has been selling Venezuelan oil. Secretary Wright has said that's going to continue indefinitely. The president's January 9th executive order said that those funds are the sovereign property of Venezuela, but has directed you, the Treasury Secretary, to hold those assets in custody to facilitate disbursements transfers as directed by the Secretary of State. As I've gone through the 91 specific trusts that you have the statutory authority to oversee, none of those have any relationship to Venezuelan oil. So can you help us understand under what statutory authority, or what statutory authority is Treasury relying on to exercise the discretionary control over natural resources and sovereign assets of another country?
Treasury has no control over the...
I'm just asking about what statutory authority you rely on.
Again, we are operating under an agreement between state and energy that we are not involved.
No, but the executive order said that the Treasury Secretary is holding those assets in custody. That's a specific language there, and is facilitating disbursements. Under what authority are you acting?
I will get back to you with the exact authority, but it is under agreement with state.
Let me just clarify, because my concern is that the executive order cites IEPA. IEPA specifically says that you have to be engaged in hostilities with a country for IEPA to trigger that claim. Secretary Rubio said that we are not at war with Venezuela. I would agree. I'm glad we're not at war. So unless you disagree with Secretary Rubio, I'm unclear under what legal authority the United States has to control or disperse those assets.
Well, I would believe that the IEPA authority would act for a period of time for a
not unless we're not. That's not
a transition.
Well, look, that's not true. But please provide in writing what you're doing there, because I want to get to why I think that's material. Last week, Secretary Rubio also said that the $200 million in proceeds was sitting in a Qatari bank that was owned by Venezuela. He went on to say the Treasury has a written agreement with Venezuela's interim government to review the monthly budget request for payments from that account. I come back to where the authority comes. What statutory authority are you using to exercise custody indirectly through a third country and direct the release of funds from those offshore accounts?
The IEPA.
That's not in IEPA. You're managing, okay, so if you're managing a third country, not in IEPA, and please do provide us with the legal guidance, because this matters. What controls are you putting to audit those flows? Because as you know, the Venezuelan government still has a lot of shady people. How are you controlling the dispersion of those flows so that they don't go back to some of the shady characters that the president is concerned about in Venezuela? What is the audit process?
Again, we will be bringing in outside auditors for this, and the Venezuelan government will be producing.
Do you have an agreement in place right now for those auditors?
Sorry?
Do you have an agreement for that audit in place right now?
Not at present.
Okay, because Secretary Rubio, when he was asked that question before the Senate, he said that the Treasury had handled the agreement that he would be providing to the Senate committee. Are you saying that Secretary Rubio was incorrect, or that you're not aware of the agreement that Treasury directed according to Secretary
I'm saying I'm not aware of the agreement.
Okay, so Secretary Rubio said he would provide that to the Senate committee. Can you please coordinate with Secretary Rubio and give us your word to provide us what Secretary Rubio is providing? Because he is alleging that that was done under your
with pleasure, Congressman. And okay. Just so you know, the goal here, it's been 30 days.
I want to just move, reclaim my time, because the concern I have is that this would be considered a fraudulent conveyance. I have a specific concern that we've entered into contracts with companies like Vitol, who have pled guilty to bribery and all sorts of nefarious actors. If I was a company buying stolen goods and we didn't have statutory authority, I'm going to have a lot of creditors coming after me. One last thing, sir. I want to read you a quote. Trump will pursue a weak dollar policy rather than implementing tariffs. Tariffs are inflationary and would strengthen the dollar. Do you recognize that quote?
I believe you're referring to a letter that I wrote, and
yes.
Tariffs could be inflationary.
No, it says tariffs are inflationary.
Yep. You know what?
You had said to
sir,
the chairwoman, I'd like to introduce into the record a January 31, 2024 letter from, quote, Scott Bessent and the Key Square team to your partners, where that quote comes from.
Without objection.
Do you want to correct what you said to the ranking member when you specifically said that you did not say tariffs are inflationary?
Well, I think she referenced a letter in the summer of something, not that particular.
No, I think you disparaged the New York Times.
Sorry?
You said tariffs are inflationary.
Sorry?
You said tariffs are inflationary.
Tariffs-
Do you want to correct what you said to the ranking member, or did you lie?
If I was mistaken, I want to correct it. And I was also mistaken when I said that tariffs could be inflationary, because they
Gentleman's
haven't been.
time has expired.
We've seen inflation drop to 2.1%.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from South Carolina. Mr. Timmons, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Secretary, it is great to see you again, and thank you for being here. Your experience and leadership at Treasury are widely respected and appreciated as we work to make the U.S. economy more competitive in the global economy. And I know you were hearing some questions about tariffs. Is that the purpose of the last year, to renegotiate our trade agreements to make the U.S. economy more competitive in the global economy?
100%. There are numerous goals, but it is to make the U.S. economy more resilient. We're now seeing 4.1% growth for the past 3 quarters. So we are seeing inflation drop. So tariff inflation was the dog that didn't bark.
Well, I appreciate it. I think that the businesses that are trying to compete in the global economy are far better off because of the last year. There was some strain through the uncertainty, but most of that is behind us, and I just really appreciate your hard work. Additionally, after several years of regulatory uncertainty and pervasive government overreach, it is encouraging to see serious leadership at Treasury focused on restoring balance to our financial system. That work matters not only to markets, but to families, small businesses, and communities across the country. You have called for a fundamental reset of financial regulation and emphasized Treasury's role in promoting appropriately tailored regulation to support economic growth. I agree with that approach. While there has been progress on tailoring supervision, far less has been done to modernize regulatory tailoring itself, particularly the interagency thresholds that trigger enhanced prudential standards for Category 2 through 4 banks. Those thresholds were set years ago and have not been updated to reflect inflation, economic growth, or changes in the financial system. As a result, banks that were never intended to be treated like GSIBs are increasingly subject to requirements that do not match their risk profiles. Republicans on this committee raised this concern in a letter to the federal banking agencies last November. Mr. Secretary, my question is this: how are Treasury and the Financial Stability Oversight Council working to coordinate across the agencies to modernize and update these thresholds and to ensure that regulatory tailoring keeps pace with economic reality rather than falling further behind it?
Congressman, I believe there's a chance that the community banker who I referenced with 200 million assets may have actually been from your district. So we are all hands on deck, and we've seen 50% of these institutions disappear, and we are working as quickly as we can. Again, one size fits all for regulation is a disaster, and as potentially the woman, the bank president and owner from your district said, Bank America's regulatory regime is not good for something in the Piedmont and upcountry in South Carolina for a bank with 200 million assets.